Good Sunday afternoon. This is meteorologist Don Paul on my new YouTube channel, Don Paul Blathers. Well, if you've been following my work for 34 years, you know that's the appropriate term, but I do have something more serious to discuss, and that is the potential outbreak of severe thunderstorms amidst this otherwise glorious Sunday. Already 81 degrees at the noon hour at the airport. It's certainly not 81 down by the waterfront. We have a southwest wind. The lake is 45 degrees, which is 3 below average. But it was a week ago when it was 7 below average. So the lake is catching up to the season, even though we've only had a few warm days. This one's the warmest yet. And so we have our localized activity, which has already resulted in one severe thunderstorm warning late this morning for Orleans County, mostly eastern Orleans County, but there's a lot more activity to the west and northwest of us. An area of low pressure is spinning around southwest Wisconsin, and it will spawn the development of more convection thunderstorms this afternoon. Let's take a look at the radars from around this entire region. And there you can see there's more active thunderstorm development over parts of Michigan. And these are out ahead of a trailing cold front from that storm system and some potentially severe weather now breaking out in northwest Illinois. And you may say, well, what's the relevance of something way out there to us? Well, our chunk of the atmosphere is going to become more bubbly this afternoon, more unstable, more upward motion. And the greatest risk of a few severe thunderstorms, severe meaning damaging winds and or large hail, will be inland from Lake Erie. Let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center outline for severe weather risk today. And you notice it includes just about all of western New York. They have brought the whole threat a little farther north and have left much of Chautauqua County out of the threat. But I wouldn't make a big deal out of that. As far as I'm concerned, the action will be more likely inland from the Lake Erie shoreline, so the interior of Chautauqua County to the east could still pick up some severe storms. And the probability for 1-inch diameter hail with these storms covers mostly a little farther south and east, away from Lakes Ontario and Erie, but a 15% threat for large hail, which could produce at least some minor damage on cars and sidings. If you are having that hail accompanied by strong winds, it increases the damage threat. So the hail threat is seen by the Storm Prediction Center, SPC, as less in Niagara, Orleans, and Chautauqua County, and probably a little less right around the city, but as you get farther inland. There is even a 2% that's a remote but still measurable risk for isolated tornadoes this afternoon, especially later today. And so that's the big picture. Now we're going to take a look at some model output, and it'll take me just a second to bring this up and see what the models are showing on a high-resolution National Weather Service model for the Northeast, which includes, of course, our region. And we're going to switch now from this lower resolution model. You'll see the difference in detail to this much higher resolution model. And this is showing the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock hour for Western New York. And if we look here, you can see there is some convection firing up way ahead of that cold front, which out here is spawning severe thunderstorms in the model and likely in reality, too, by that time, across Michigan, northwest Ohio, and Indiana. And we'll have to keep an eye on those for late today and early this evening. But let's go through the afternoon. We're at let's see, 2 o'clock, and we move to 3 o'clock, and the model has that initial cluster moving essentially east toward Rochester and away from us. And then the model has us largely storm-free around 4 o'clock. I wouldn't bet the farm on this because we've already seen one severe cell in Orleans County, which wasn't being picked up in earlier model runs. So the threat of a few spotty, strong thunderstorms will be with us in a few spots, even at 4 o'clock, although this model is showing nothing at that hour and showing nothing at 5 o'clock near us. Note the activity to the west. That's out ahead of the cold front from this deep low pressure system. So if this model were on the money, we wouldn't have much of a problem. This is at 6 o'clock this evening, 7 o'clock, and then the activity is not really seen here returning until early this evening. And with that in mind, I would recommend people just keep an eye on the western and southwestern horizon because that's going to be the point of origin for storms. And we also look to a mathematical index from the Storm Prediction Center, the SPC, which shows the contour of greater instability, bubbliness for the atmosphere inland from the lakes. In this blue contour, there's a little more energy in the atmosphere for towering thunderstorms that, again, could produce some gusts to 60 miles an hour and hail up to an inch in diameter. So that's the basic picture. Most of the time this afternoon, it will not be raining in any given location. Let's take a look as I'm recording this. This is a little after the noon hour. National Weather Service Doppler radar indicating that cell which produced the severe thunderstorm warning for Orleans County is now moving more toward Rochester and getting out of our part of western New York, but new cells are starting to fire up, and we've got some here moving toward Genesee County from eastern Erie County. These may intensify in the next 30 to 60 minutes, so depending on what time you view this YouTube video, we'll have some new action, but it just means you have to keep your knees loose. Most of the time, most spots will be rain-free, but there is the threat of a few scattered strong to severe thunderstorms, which could produce some damaging gusts and large hail. Then the rest of the time, you can enjoy, inland from the lake at least, some low 80s this afternoon down by the lake shore, both lake shores, considerably cooler right at the water's edge, and that includes Youngstown, Wilson, Newfane, Olcott, where this warm air is not dropping down from the escarpment to the lakeshore. So even if beaches were open, this would not be an ideal day at the Lake Ontario beaches. The Lake Erie beaches, a little cool, and with the water temperature at 45, I don't think anybody is going to be putting their tootsies in the water. So we'll try to keep you informed on both my Facebook and Twitter pages. You can follow me there with any additional warnings during the afternoon. Play it safe.